and you're dealing with people who may be very elderly and very limited, those same movements are all used on the homestead, every one of them.
Yes. Well, they're really basic to your activities of daily living.
We stopped along the road on our way from New Mexico to Utah, and we have some red, beautiful things in the rock formations in the back. If I'd have waited a little bit longer to stop, we'd have had more. But the wind was so strong that we didn't realize that you couldn't hear us because the mic was being just blown out by the wind. However, I wanted to talk over this so that you could see what we had done. And we were even stopping and waiting for the cars to pass so that you would be able to hear us. Who knew? Ah, silly us. And we do have a mic that we could put on us, but we just didn't do it. So what I'm going to show you now, and what I'm picking up right now, is 10 pounds of beans. And those are Anasazi beans. When we go to New Mexico, which we haven't been to in a long time, we try to pick up beans because that's where they're grown. Actually, let me rephrase that. On our way to New Mexico, we stop in Dove Creek, which is on the way to Cortez, Colorado, and purchase beans. And we got Anasazi beans, which were found in Mesa Verde, in bottles that were like 500 years old. These aren't them, but that's how they originally found these. And so we were able to, we love these beans. They have less gas, they're more tender, they're really good tasting. So we got 10 pounds of those, and 10 pounds of black beans, and 10 pounds of pinto beans, and 10 pounds of butter beans, which are really, really tender bean. They almost look like a lima bean, which I don't love, but these are amazing. So we were so excited we looked and looked and looked for it on the way down there and couldn't find it, and then we found it here.
Well, we've had a great trip. We are now again in the Salt Lake Valley. I'm going to be working tomorrow, and then we're going to head to Elko. Thought we'd take a few minutes and at least talk about something. I can show you a little bit, but I'm not ready to show you all of it. As I'm going through my recertification for personal trainer, and with the senior exercise specialty, there's some great ideas that I'm picking up, and it's interesting how after having been through all of this multiple times, I start to see some patterns and some ways that things fit together a little bit better. And it's impressive to me that an old dog can still learn new tricks.
Ooh, my old dog.
But one thing that I'm seeing, and I'm not prepared to show it right now because there's some devices that I need to show.
I'll work on getting those devices
today. We're going to work on that today. But what I'm seeing is there is what for folks who've been sedentary and limited on mobility and even with some balance challenges perhaps, there's a series of exercises for them that actually have to do with your stability, your ability to be in different positions and not fall over, and to have yourself properly postured. I mean, that's very crucial.
So when you talk about stability, you're talking about being able to stand.
Being able to stand.
When you talk about mobility, you're being able to walk.
Yeah.
Okay.
The stability is the position that you're in, whether, from the front you can see that I'm, if you look at my back, you notice I don't have any scoliosis. I don't have any lordosis or kyphosis. And I'm standing erect and I'm standing straight. And I don't have any joint deviations to where, like I'm leaning to one side, one arm sticks out more than the other, just because of imbalances that are there. So it's some stability, getting that in place. And then the mobility is, there are 5 movement patterns. And we're going to talk more about those. Mobility has to do with how your joints are moving. And there's really 5 movement patterns that are talked about. And the first one is the bend where you're for like setting or squatting to pick things up. That's the first one. and there's a few different ways to do it. That's where the
lunges come in.
Lunges come in, and also the side lunges. So you're getting to where you're getting those movements. Okay. So that's the first movement, bend and stretch. And then the other is the push movements, where you're pushing things, whether it's shutting drawers, shutting doors,
pushing
or you're pushing a cart. And the other is a pull movement. So it could be pulling a door, it could be opening, those types of things. And then we have the reaching movements, where you're going up into higher places. Okay. And then there's going to be the bends that we do, the twists.
Well, you know what's so interesting is when you're referring to that right now, because you're doing one with senior specialists, and you're dealing with people who may be very elderly and very limited. Those same movements are all used on the homestead, every one of them.
Yes. Well, they're really basic to your activities of daily living, plain and simple. Everybody does them. Unless you sit around and do absolutely nothing, you're going to do all 5 of those movements. You need all that stability, you need all that movement ability. So this series of exercises that I'm talking about deals with is getting you to where you're postured correctly, and then working on the deviations, finding the deviations and focusing on those, but then also on the movement patterns. So it's a series of exercises that refresh our minds and our bodies on how they should be and how they should move, so we're doing it correctly. And it helps folks who are like that, but it's also a great pre-warm-up for your warm-up exercises,
for anybody,
because it refreshes you on where you should be, so that when you start doing more weight-bearing exercises, you're postured correctly, you're moving correctly, so that you don't injure yourself, and so that as you're building those muscles and the bones, you're building them correctly instead of getting muscle imbalances. And the muscle imbalances is what cause a lot of the the kyphosis, the lordosis, and some of the other deviations, to where we get one muscle that's stretched more. And so, like if my muscles back here are stretched more, I tend to be like this. So you see a lot of people like this. Well, they haven't strengthened these muscles back here, and perhaps these muscles up here are too strong. And there's all kinds of combinations.
Well, what I find interesting is that when you're talking about that it's a reminder to shoulders, back, chest. It's the same reminder that we get when I say we need to chew our food more.
Yes.
It's those basics that we just fluff over that injure us.
Absolutely. And you can see how if you're doing a lot of something and you're doing it wrong, then you're going to cause that muscle imbalance, which is going to get you being deviated in some way, which then that puts stress on your joints, which is going to cause the pain, the joint pain that you're experiencing. So, but what I'm saying is 2 things here. First of all, if you have your stability and your mobility right, you're going to decrease your joint pain and those aches and pains that you tend to feel. And if you're exercising frequently, those muscle pains you get from when you do something and you haven't been used to doing it and it hurts you, you're not going to be experiencing those, because your muscles are going to have the endurance capability and you're going to be able to do normal daily things without it injuring you. The other aspect of this, as a warm-up for those who are doing more exercises, is it's a great way to start, because it keeps you from hurting yourself, injuring yourself. Then you can truly exercise and progress yourself to the point that you cause extreme changes and improvements in your health. And really that's what we're talking about for folks who are experiencing a lot of decrease in their ability to do things, getting to the point that they push themselves, that they can do a lot more than they ever imagined that they could. Their health, their daily feeling about themselves, their ability to take care of themselves, and to do what in their homes? Sustainably?
Oh, sustainably live in place.
Yes. It's an important part of it.
So
you don't want to lose those abilities.
So if I take my hands and I push out to you and I draw you in, then I'm practicing, right?
Oh dear, we're practicing more. We're practicing more.
We're excited to share some of this stuff with you in a fun way. So we will see you later.